Hi everyone. Dairy is Scary is the title. Where do baby kittens get their milk from? Cats. Now where do baby mice, rats, and puppies? Dogs. Now where do baby humans get their milk from? Cows. This may seem a bit odd, but understandably, we as humans have been doing this for thousands of years. We are the only mammals who receive milk from another mammal. Let's talk about the history of dairy in the USA. The history of dairy consumption in the US since the 1940s has been based on propaganda and false media information. Prior to World War One, dairy farms were quite poor, so the government and dairy farms linked together and produced canned and powdered milk to send over to the troops during the war. After the war, there was a surplus of milk, which led to the government purchasing the milk and storing it in warehouses. This made the government upset because they were spending over $2 billion a year on unused dairy products. The dairy industry put out media ads in the 50s and 60s. I don't know if you see this. Such as this. Encouraging families to drink more milk, encouraging it in schools, and encouraging it with every meal. That's right around the same time when the food pyramid came out and gave it its own personal category, stating that we needed 3 to 4 servings a day, using celebrity endorsements, commercials from companies like Got Milk, yogurt commercials, Kellogg cereal commercials, or even regular fast food commercials. When you see ads like double cheeseburgers or fries with extra cheese, that's the dairy industry. Oops. This is a picture of the food pyramid from the 1980s. This second level here is all dairy. Now let's talk about lactose intolerance. Lactose intolerance is common, affecting 95% of Asian Americans, 74% of Native Americans, 70% of African Americans, 53% of Mexican Americans, and 15% of Caucasians. Symptoms, which include upset stomach, diarrhea, gas, occur because the individuals lack the enzyme lactase, which is needed to digest the milk sugar lactose. This is the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine 2020. Lactose, the sugar enzyme that needs to be broken down and metabolized and then excreted, and it's usually wasted out through waste or urine. All mammals are able to break this down in their own species from about an infant to age 5. So from right around when we're born to age 5, we're able to break down our mother's breast milk. But for individuals who have a heavily dairy diet, there's a mutation in the progression, and we call these people lactase persisters. So people who are lactose intolerant, I'm lactose intolerant, we are technically normal. We are not supposed to break down this enzyme. So people who continue to break down this enzyme and are able to consume dairy, they are called lactase persisters. 65% of the human population is lactose intolerant. This may come as a shock, but we live in an environment with less lactose intolerance due to our overconsumption, or it goes undiagnosed. Many Asian countries and African American countries do not have the source of dairy, and most individuals cannot digest it in those types of countries. Resolution for lactose intolerance: there are many other options, plant-based options, that have more nutrients and are more beneficial for our diet. Coconut milk, cashew milk, soy milk, hemp milk, pea milk, and the increasingly popular almond milk. Americans are slowly learning about the dairy industry and why we don't need milk in our diets. This was Northwestern Medicine 2020. Along with unhealthy additives in the dairy milk, mistreatment of animals, and the filtration process are among other reasons why dairy milk is not needed to be consumed. Dairy cows can only produce milk like every other mammal after giving birth. So they are repeatedly impregnated. Their children are taken away from them. If it is a boy, they're taken to a veal farm. If it is a girl, the girls have to wait a year and then they themselves become dairy cows. Dairy cows are often mistreated, impregnated in a device called a rape rack. This is the rape rack. Infection in the udders can occur, and infections like thrush. This is the udder infections. If this is not treated, this often passes through the filtration process. Insulin growth factor is a hormone that is injected into dairy cows so that they produce more milk at a faster rate. IGF in humans can cause type 1 diabetes and can cause cancer cells to spread at a faster rate. So it's not saying that IGF causes cancer, but if we have a predisposition for cancer or cancer already in our body, IGF causes it to rapidly multiply. Vitamin D milk is also an additive. Vitamin D is a hormone that is produced in the body, usually on the surface of the skin. You could get it from going outside for 30 minutes. Standing outside, the sun gives you vitamin D. The dairy industry has proclaimed that vitamin D is in milk, which is not true. It is an additive. Pus, or what the dairy industry calls somatic cells, which are basically white blood cells, leukocytes. These type of cells are cells of infection. These are also the same type of cells that you can find inside a pimple. When being filtered, the USDA allows 450,000 per milliliter of somatic cells in dairy milk. Along with pus, infection, additive hormones, blood can also pass through the filtration process. In conclusion, dairy milk has been linked to colorectal cancers, ovarian cancers, prostate cancers, along with the calcium benefit not being the highest as it is proclaimed. You can get higher forms of calcium from green leafy vegetables like kale, broccoli than you can from dairy milk. Additionally, studies have been done on dairy milk possibly causing osteoporosis, which is brittle bones, which is the opposite of what dairy milk has proclaimed for years. Additive hormones that can induce cancer to multiply, causing type 1 diabetes, causing type 1 diabetes. This is why pediatricians do not recommend whole milk to an infant until they are of a year old, because they do not have the digestive enzymes to break down whole milk, and they could develop insulin resistance, and insulin resistance basically is type 1 diabetes. In my opinion, you should never give a child dairy milk if the risk factor is diabetes. Along with the mistreatment of animals by the dairy industry and the government, who profit from ads and sales in America. This also is closely linked to the beef industry. After a dairy cow can no longer stand, they're full of pus, they're full of infection, they fall down sometimes and they stay down. They call them downers. They are either killed or they send them to the beef farms. So you're eating an infected cow, and that's my speech.